I went with a smaller agent, and he couldn't get arrested in Hollywood. He was known in New York, and he wasn't getting anywhere. Then he merged with my old agent, the one I'd left to go to William Morris. And he says, I'm back with what's his name. And then to his desk came Hill Street Station.
Hill Street Blues didn't just change television, it shattered the rules. And now, at 85, Daniel J. Travanti is finally revealing the truth about what really happened behind the scenes. As Captain Frank Furillo, he became the face of a revolution in TV drama. But the fame came with a price: personal battles, on-set pressure, and backstage rivalries that no one saw coming. Was the show almost canceled before it aired? Which cast members clashed behind the camera? And what secret was Travanti hiding while playing a role that mirrored his darkest struggle? The answers will surprise you. The risk that changed TV forever. When Hill Street Blues premiered in 1981, it didn't launch with fireworks, it landed with confusion. NBC executives were baffled. The gritty realism, overlapping dialogue, shaky handheld cameras, and a sprawling ensemble cast felt more like a documentary than a network police drama. Early test audiences didn't know what to make of it. In a TV landscape dominated by predictable crime shows with clean endings and cardboard heroes, Hill Street Blues was chaos. And that was exactly the point. The series was the brainchild of Steven Bochco, a writer who had no interest in playing by the rules. Instead of telling tidy, episodic stories, Bochco envisioned a show that mirrored the messiness of real life. Morally complex, emotionally layered, and never neatly resolved. Set in a crumbling, unnamed city plagued by corruption, poverty, and violence, the series followed an entire precinct rather than a single lead detective. This was a world where cops weren't saints or sinners, they were human beings trying to survive. From the moment the melancholic theme music began, followed by the brisk, tension-filled morning roll calls, the tone was set. This show wasn't just about chasing bad guys, it was about burnout, bureaucracy, and the quiet heroism of people doing a thankless job. And anchoring it all was Daniel J. Travanti, cast as Captain Frank Furillo.
I was the first guy they saw for this role.
Travanti later recalled. Still, it almost didn't happen. His agent had been struggling in Hollywood until a merger placed the Hill Street script back on Travanti's desk. It was a twist of fate that changed his life and television history. Though the pilot nearly tanked, critics saw the brilliance. The first season earned 8 Emmys, including Outstanding Drama Series. Travanti won for Best Actor. The gamble had paid off, and suddenly, everyone in Hollywood was paying attention. But while the show changed what drama could be on screen, behind the camera, things were far from smooth. Inside the on-set pressure cooker. The chaos viewers saw on screen in Hill Street Blues wasn't far from what was unfolding behind the camera. From the moment production began, the show became known for its grueling pace, unpredictable scripts, and relentless pressure to deliver something television had never seen before. Scenes were often rewritten just hours before filming. Entire plot lines shifted overnight. Cast and crew operated under a constant cloud of urgency and fear. Showrunner Steven Bochco was a visionary, but he wasn't gentle. He demanded excellence, and those who couldn't match his pace were quickly replaced. Writers burned out. Directors braced for last-minute changes. Even veteran actors weren't immune. Nobody's job was ever safe. For a show that was rewriting the rules of television, the cost was high, and it was paid daily on set. Daniel Travanti, now the face of the series, brought a seriousness to his work that bordered on obsession. He rarely broke character between scenes, choosing instead to live as Captain Frank Furillo, even when the cameras weren't rolling. This method-level intensity earned him deep respect, but also created distance. Some co-stars admired his focus. Others quietly struggled with his aloofness. "We didn't just act tired, we were tired," Travanti later admitted, referencing the emotional weight the cast carried throughout the show's run. Then came the most painful moment of the series: the death of Michael Conrad, who played Sergeant Phil Esterhaus. Conrad was a pillar of the cast, known for his iconic line, let's be careful out there. During the 4th season, he was quietly battling cancer.
He kept denying it, which I think you have to do. You have to deny that it's actually happening. And I got weaker and weaker and kept coming in, then couldn't anymore. It was hard.
Travanti said, recalling how the production kept Conrad on the payroll even as his health deteriorated. But while grief hung over the set, Daniel Travanti was carrying something even heavier, his own personal truth, hidden just below the surface. The real struggles behind Furillo. Daniel J. Travanti didn't just play a recovering alcoholic on Hill Street Blues, he was one. His portrayal of Captain Frank Furillo was so raw, so grounded, because it came from personal experience. Years before he was cast, Travanti had quietly battled alcoholism, nearly losing his career in the process. When the role of Furillo came along, it wasn't just a part, it was a lifeline. The producers leaned into that reality, using his history to shape Furillo's character arc with painful authenticity. For Travanti, acting was more than craft, it was survival. For many years I did not know how to be a person, he later confessed. Becoming Furillo gave him something he hadn't had in years: structure, purpose, and emotional clarity. The character's integrity, restraint, and quiet vulnerability weren't just well-written, they were reflections of Travanti's own struggle to stay sober, focused, and grounded under the pressure of fame. Even as the accolades poured in, Travanti kept his life tightly guarded. He never married. He rarely gave interviews. Colleagues described him as kind but distant, someone who poured everything into the work and left very little behind the scenes. On set, he often remained in character, not just as a technique, but as a shield. The set could be chaotic. The industry was unforgiving. But acting, he said, offered a kind of emotional safety few things in his life ever had. Acting was the only place I ever felt safe, he later admitted. Furillo's dignity, his calm under fire, wasn't an act. It was the result of Travanti's lived experience, transformed into something millions of viewers could relate to. But carrying that emotional weight every day while leading one of the most intense productions in TV history came with a steep price. And as Travanti walked that tightrope between performance and personal healing, it began to affect how the cast connected with him and with each other. Cast chemistry and quiet tension. On screen, Hill Street Blues thrived on the chemistry of its ensemble cast. The characters felt authentic, flawed, funny, frustrated, and deeply human. But behind the scenes, that magic didn't always translate to harmony. With such a large cast of rising stars and veteran actors, ego and envy were inevitable. As the show gained acclaim, so did the quiet tensions brewing beneath its surface. Daniel Travanti, as the emotional center of the show, maintained a serious, almost distant demeanor on set. He stayed in character between takes, spoke little, and focused intently on his work. Some cast members respected his professionalism. Others quietly found him cold. Still, no one questioned his dedication. He embodied Captain Furillo in a way that made it hard to separate the man from the role. Betty Thomas, who played Officer Lucy Bates, experienced a surprising rise in visibility. What began as a relatively minor role evolved into one of the show's breakout characters. Her assertive, no-nonsense delivery became a fan favorite and earned her more screen time. But that success sparked murmurs. Some castmates saw her prominence as disrupting the show's balance, with whispers of favoritism trickling through the soundstage. Bruce Weitz, known for playing the unpredictable Detective Belker, often brought levity to the set. Joe Spano, as Henry Goldblum, provided steadiness and warmth. Both actors were respected by their peers, but even they couldn't fully buffer the occasional jealousy that flared, especially when award season magnified who got top billing and who got left out. And while cast dynamics simmered quietly, a much louder fight was happening off-set, between the creators and the network determined to rein them in. Breaking rules and paying the price. Hill Street. Blues didn't just stretch the boundaries of television, it smashed them. In an era when network dramas played it safe, The show fearlessly tackled issues that had rarely been addressed with nuance. Systemic corruption, racism, sexism in the workplace, addiction, and mental health. It portrayed law enforcement not as infallible heroes, but as flawed, burdened people, struggling to stay afloat in a broken system. It was bold, uncomfortable, and decades ahead of its time. Censors didn't like it. NBC executives pushed back constantly. Some episodes were delayed, others were edited. The show's raw dialogue and unflinching look at urban decay made it difficult to package for prime time. Despite winning Emmys and critical acclaim, Hill Street Blues was a constant source of anxiety for the network. They demanded changes, slashed budgets, and clashed repeatedly with showrunner Stephen Bochco. Still, the writers fought to hold the line. The show's signature techniques, overlapping dialogue, long-running story arcs, documentary-style camera work, were never meant to be gimmicks. They were reflections of real life, and the writers refused to dilute them for convenience. But over time, the pressure to maintain brilliance became exhausting. Deadlines were brutal. Expectations grew impossible. Staff turnover soared. Bochco, after laying the foundation for what would become prestige television, eventually burned out and moved on. Television was ready for something real, Travanti later said. Something that didn't sugarcoat the job or the people doing it. Now, at 85, he looks back with clarity and quiet pride. He doesn't mourn the awards or the fame, he values the work. "I wish I'd enjoyed it more," he admits. For years, he was too focused on survival to savor the moment. But he knows Hill Street Blues changed television forever, not by accident, but through sheer determination. Daniel Travanti didn't chase fame, he chased truth. And through Hill Street Blues, he helped redefine what television could be. Which behind-the-scenes moment shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you learned something new, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. And if you thought this was intense, wait until you see what really happened in the video on your screen. Click now to watch.